Hey guys, Sun here. I'm a privacy and security researcher, and you're watching The Privacy Guides. Some of you have been asking, where is the macOS Big Sur episode? I'm not sure how I'm going to title this episode yet. It might be like reset number 2 or something. So you saw in the 2 last episodes that I was pushing merch again, and I was trying to set things up on Patreon so that you guys could support The Privacy Guides, and some of you have. And to you, thanks so much for your support. Some of you also purchased the Big Sur guide. Thanks also for your support. But in the larger scope of things, a lot of this felt wrong. First, I am very uncomfortable with the idea of putting a paywall for this knowledge that is designed to encourage and teach people about privacy. That is not a commercial enterprise, and nor should it be. That is about initiating change, making people aware of how technology has become invasive in our lives, and charging for that feels wrong. Not earning a living and struggling financially also feels wrong, but if I am in this journey with you guys, it's about change. It's not about finding a way of making this be financially viable, even though in a perfect world, both of those things could exist in the same time, in the same space. And I want to take a moment to discuss open source in general. A lot of open source software is free. And that is a massive, massive, massive problem, because a lot of those fabulous open source projects end up having to find a way to pay their people, because me as a YouTuber behind the camera here, I'm no different than you are. We're the same. We have a rent, we have food. I know some of you are watching in countries that are not as, I'm trying to find the right words for this here, where this here would be considered very extravagant. And in many regards, it is. Now, sustaining this kind of lifestyle, which here in Canada is normal, is impossible, at least for me, in the realm of open source. I mean, I pour enormous amounts of love and time into the Privacy Guides project. The episode on the Raspberry Pi for encrypted paper backups on its own probably took over 100 hours. The Strong Swan episodes took over 100 hours. Building the CMS for me to be able to publish this in a sovereign way and not just rely on GitHub, which is owned by Microsoft, is something that I've poured hundreds of hours in. Each episode, like the one for Big Sur, take an average 10 to 15, 20 hours. And by the way, the episodes that actually really work well are the ones where I react to news, like the Signal one. That almost doubled the audience. But that's, and don't get me wrong, those episodes are really important. But what I'm trying to do in developing this audience, in getting to know you guys, and maybe putting together the Privacy Guides meetups, I feel that all of this is much more profound. It's not about growing an audience and getting that 100K silver button, it's about change. And change is not necessarily sexy, and change does not sell merch, and change usually requires a huge amount of dedication and involvement and investment. And I don't know who is funding privacy right now. I mean, it's just something that is not getting the attention that it deserves. And me doing this is me trying to participate in opening people's eyes on this and having us see technology differently. So getting back to the open source stuff, everyone who are building this open source technology that we love and cherish as privacy conscious people, they're probably struggling like hell to be able to balance their lives. And I know everything on the internet feels like it's free, but it's not. It is not at all free. Every hour that I spend working on QR Bridge, on the Raspberry Pi stuff, on this YouTube channel, that's an hour that I could bill between $100 and $200 per hour to paid clients. That work would be benefiting large corporations that can afford that are probably not aligned with this mission. And that's really challenging. I mean, and I don't want to generalize here. I think some of those larger corporations are doing great work, but conceptually speaking, there's just no outlet for me to do what I love, what I really care about, while earning a decent living. And just to discuss this Patreon thing for a second, Patreon has about every tracker known to mankind running on it. And one of you reached out by email and said, "Son, I want to support your work, but is this a test?" You know, and what I understood out of that email is, are you really asking me to sign up with a credit card on a website that is tracking me on Facebook, TikTok, pretty much all of the trackers, Google Analytics? And that really made me realize that there are no shortcuts to be made. The only one that I'm willing to make is YouTube, and that's because that's where you guys are. There were 200 of you or so on PeerTube, and there are 26,000 of you on YouTube. So if we want to initiate change, we have to do it. And I actually, for a really brief moment, re-enabled monetization on YouTube. And just to put numbers, by the way, with an audience 26,000 strong, I earned $7 for that day that it was enabled, which is ridiculous. You have to operate at a massive scale. So don't you guys think that small creators like me earn a living on YouTube? It's totally impossible. And for the longest of time now, I wasn't enabling monetization, and I re-disabled monetization because I feel bad getting paid by a company that is tracking its users. It's like doing a deal with the devil in a way, where I think what Google or YouTube has done is fabulous, but people are just not willing to pay for YouTube. And don't get me wrong, even if they were, and I'm paying for YouTube Premium or whatever it's called, it would be really hard to move the needle. I mean, like, a massive amount of people would have to pay and ask for privacy, or they leave for it to change. And I don't know how this change will happen, but I think this is what this thing we have going on, that's what it's about. How can we initiate change? Or at least how can we support each other in being privacy conscious? It is very isolating to be privacy conscious. It is really hard to give a fuck in this world. And at least knowing that other people give a fuck makes it more bearable. So all that said, let me know in the comments if you care about that macOS Bixer episode. I'll see if I republish it without all the Patreon promotion and stuff like this. Thanks to everyone who cares. And if ever you do want to support the project financially, please consider a Bitcoin donation or supporting it on LibraPay, which is like Patreon, but there are no perks. There is no commercial transaction. It is just a donation. And I really wish that in this world, in this time and age, people would consider this. I mean, the amount of work that goes into a channel like mine, and I'm talking on the behalf of all the other creators that give a fuck, that is what you guys are supporting. It's not about the additional PDF or the additional X or Y. This is not about a commercial transaction. This is about caring. And I think that some of you who are watching may not be able to afford a paywall. So if we want to initiate change at a larger scale, those of you who can afford financially to support my work, you're helping people who can't have access to it. And this is us making knowledge available to everyone. And I have shivers in my hair right now. That's what's meaningful.